The bridge of the Earth vessel Horizon was quiet except for the steady hum of computers. Captain Derek Miller stood by the main window, watching the stars. For 10,000 years, humans had stayed hidden from the rest of the galaxy. They had kept their ships inside the solar system. They had turned off their deep space transmitters. They had been silent. Now something had changed. "Captain, we're getting a signal," said Communications Officer Ryan Lee. His voice shook slightly. This was the first message from outside the solar system in 10 millennia. Derek turned from the window, put it on speakers. Strange sounds filled the bridge. The alien language was old, but the ship's computers began to translate. The message became clear. To the human race, the Galactic Council calls you back. Your silence must end. The galaxy needs you again. Respond within 1 solar rotation, or we will come to you. The bridge crew looked at each other. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Commander Lisa Brown walked up to Derek. She had been his second in command for 5 years. "Sir, this could be a trap. We don't know why they want us back." Derek nodded. "Pull up the historical records. I want to know everything about why we went silent." The main screen lit up with old documents and videos. Lisa read from the files. 10,000 years ago, humans were part of the Galactic Council. We had the strongest military in the galaxy. Our weapons were more advanced than any other species. She continued reading. Then came the Great War. Half the galaxy was destroyed. Entire star systems disappeared. Billions died. "And we caused it?" asked Derek. "No," Lisa said. "We ended it. But the other species saw how dangerous our weapons were. They feared us. Some wanted to destroy Earth. Instead, we chose to leave. We locked away our weapons and stayed in our own solar system." Derek walked to his command chair. The leather was worn from years of use, and now they want us back. The question is why. Young pilot Jack Turner spoke up from his station. "Maybe they're in trouble. Maybe they need our help. Or maybe they want to finish what they started," said Security Chief Kate Phillips. "Maybe they want to destroy us while we're weak." Derek looked at each of his officers. These were good people. They deserved to know the truth. "Computer, access sealed archive 77 Alpha." A new file appeared on screen. It was marked with the highest security classification. Derek had never opened it before. "This is a message from the last human ambassador to the Galactic Council," Derek said. "She recorded it just before we went silent." An old woman appeared on screen. Her face was tired, but her eyes were sharp. "If you're watching this, it means the galaxy has called for us again. You need to know the truth. We didn't leave because we were exiled. We left because we were too dangerous. Our weapons could destroy entire civilizations. We scared ourselves as much as we scared them." The recording continued. "But we always knew this day would come. The day when the galaxy would need us again. When that happens, you must decide. Will you answer their call? Will you risk becoming the monsters they think we are? Or will you stay silent and let the galaxy face its fate alone?" The message ended. The bridge was quiet again. Derek stood up. His decision would affect all of humanity. Earth had 8 billion people who had lived in peace for 10,000 years. But out there, among the stars, something was happening. Something that made the aliens desperate enough to call for humanity's return. "Ryan, open a channel to the Galactic Council," Derek ordered. "Sir." Lisa looked surprised. "Are you sure?" Derek met her eyes. "No. But we can't hide forever. It's time to find out what they want." Ryan worked at his console. "Channel open, Captain." Derek took a deep breath. Then he spoke the words that would change everything. "This is Captain Derek Miller of Earth Vessel Horizon. Humanity receives your message. We are listening." The die was cast. After 10,000 years, humanity's silence was broken. The transport ship entered the docking bay of the Council station. Ambassador Karen White felt her hands shake slightly. She was the first human to meet aliens in 10,000 years. Behind her stood 4 guards in black uniforms. They carried no weapons. The council had demanded humans come unarmed. The docking bay was huge. The ceiling reached up 500 feet. Ships from dozens of different worlds filled the space. Karen saw creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some had 4 arms. Others floated in the air. A few looked like giant insects. "Stay calm," Karen told her team. "Remember your training. Show no fear." They walked down a long hallway. The walls were made of a strange blue metal that seemed to glow. Alien symbols covered every surface. At the end of the hallway, massive doors opened silently. The council chamber took Karen's breath away. It was a giant sphere with seats floating at different levels. 700 different species filled the room. All eyes turned to the humans as they entered. In the center floated a platform. A tall creature with gray skin stood there. It had 4 eyes and thin arms that reached to the floor. This was the Vorthan Chancellor, leader of the council. "Welcome, humans," the Chancellor said. Its voice sounded like wind through trees. "You have answered our call. This is good." Karen stepped onto a moving platform that carried her to the center. She stood before the Chancellor, trying to stay calm. "Why did you summon us? What do you want?" The Chancellor's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "We face destruction. A new enemy has come. They are called the Devourers." A giant screen appeared in the air. It showed a star system. Karen watched as something dark moved across the screen. The darkness touched a planet. In seconds, the planet disappeared. The star began to fade. "The Devourers are beings of pure energy," the Chancellor explained. "They eat matter itself. Planets, stars, everything. They have destroyed 17 systems already." Karen felt cold. "What do you want from us?" An old creature floated forward. It looked like a mix between a bird and a fish. "I am Zektar, Council Historian. I remember your people. I was here when you left." Zektar waved a wing. New images appeared. They showed human ships in battle. The weapons they used made Karen's stomach turn. Beams of light that twisted space. Bombs that created black holes. Devices that stopped time itself. "Your weapons were terrible," Zektar said, "but they were effective. Nothing could stand against them. That is why we feared you. That is why you chose to leave." The Chancellor spoke again. "We have tried everything against the Devourers. Energy weapons do nothing. Missiles pass through them. Only your ancient weapons might work." Karen understood now. "You want us to fight for you. You want us to become your warriors again." "No," the Chancellor said. "We offer you full membership in the Council, equal status with all species. In exchange, you help us survive." A new voice spoke. It came from a creature that looked like living shadow. "This is a mistake. The humans are too dangerous. They will destroy us all." Other voices joined in. Some supported the humans. Others wanted them gone. The chamber filled with argument. Karen raised her hand. The room became quiet. "You ask us to use weapons we locked away. Weapons that scared us so much we hid for 10,000 years. Why should we trust you now?" The Chancellor moved closer. "Because without you, we all die. The Devourers grow stronger each day. They move toward the core worlds. Earth will not be safe either." Karen felt the weight of the decision. All of humanity's future rested on her words. She thought of Earth, peaceful and quiet. She thought of the billions who had never known war. "I need to speak with Earth," Karen said. "This decision is too big for me alone." The Chancellor nodded. "You have one standard day. Decide quickly. The Devourers do not wait." As Karen left the chamber, she heard the aliens talking. Some whispered with hope. Others whispered with fear. After 10,000 years, the dangerous humans had returned. The Kuiper Belt was cold and dark. Beyond Neptune, in the outer edge of the solar system, massive structures floated in space. They had been sleeping for 10,000 years. Now lights began to flicker on their surfaces. Admiral John Parker stood on the observation deck of the command station. Through the reinforced glass, he watched as ancient shipyards came to life. Each structure was the size of a small moon. Inside them waited humanity's old fleet. "Status report," John said to his aide. The young woman checked her tablet. "Power systems coming online in sections 1 through 15. No problems detected. The automated maintenance worked perfectly." John nodded. For 10 millennia, robots had kept the ships ready. They had repaired damage, replaced parts, and waited for this day. Chief Engineer Amy Davis entered the observation deck. Her face showed excitement and worry at the same time. "Admiral, the singularity cannons are responding to startup sequences." "But sir, these weapons, they're terrifying." "I know," John said. "Show me the fleet status." Amy activated a holographic display. Hundreds of ships appeared in blue light. Dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, destroyers, and carriers. Each one was a masterpiece of destruction. "Look at this." Amy pointed to the largest ship, the Retribution, 2 miles long. Armor that can survive a nuclear blast. "And the weapons." She paused. "The weapons can tear holes in space itself." John studied the display. These ships had ended the Great War 10,000 years ago. They had been so powerful that humanity scared itself into hiding. "Admiral," a voice called from the communication station. "We have movement in Docking Bay 7. John and Amy rushed to the monitoring center. On the screens, they saw a small transport ship approaching one of the dreadnoughts. The ship's ID beacon was military, but very old. "This is Lieutenant Danny Cruz." A voice came through the speakers. "I found something you need to see." 30 minutes later, Danny stood before John and Amy. The young officer looked pale. In his hands was a data storage device. "I was assigned to check the archives on the battleship Vengeance," Danny explained. "I found sealed files. They required my DNA to open. My family goes back to the old fleet officers." "What did you find?" John asked. Danny activated the device. A hologram appeared showing a man in an old admiral's uniform. He looked tired and sad. "This is Admiral Rodriguez, final commander of the human fleet." The recording began. "If you're watching this, it means we've been called back to war. You need to understand what these weapons can do." The hologram changed to show a battle. Human ships fired beams of twisted light. Enemy vessels didn't explode. They simply stopped existing. Entire fleets vanished in seconds. "We became drunk on power," Admiral Rodriguez continued. "We thought we were gods. We could delete our enemies from reality itself. But power corrupts. We began to enjoy the killing." Amy gasped. On the screen, human ships destroyed a peaceful colony. There had been no military targets, just civilians. "That's why we chose isolation," Rodriguez said. "Not because others feared us. Because we feared ourselves. These weapons change you. They make you feel invincible. They make you forget mercy." The recording ended. The room was silent. "We can't use these ships," Amy said. "They're too dangerous." John walked to the window. Outside, more shipyards were activating. "The Council says only our weapons can stop the Devourers. Billions will die if we don't help." "But what if we become monsters again?" Danny asked. John turned to face them. "That's the risk we take. But this time, we know the danger. This time, we can prepare." He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All personnel, this is Admiral Parker. Continue activation sequences. But remember why we locked these weapons away. Remember the price of power." Across the Kuiper Belt, humanity's terrible fleet awakened. The greatest weapons ever built prepared for war once more. The galaxy had called for the dangerous humans. Now they would answer. Dr. Helen Martinez walked through the medical bay of the flagship Retribution. Her footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. She carried a tablet full of troubling data. The psychological profiles of the crew were changing. She found Admiral Parker in the command center. Sir, we need to talk. It's about the crew. John looked up from his console. What's wrong? Helen showed him the data. Since we boarded these ships, aggression levels have increased by 30%. Crew members report strange dreams. Some say they hear whispers. Whispers? John frowned. Yes, they say the ships are talking to them, telling them about past battles, showing them how to use the weapons. Helen paused. Sir, I think the ships are affecting our minds. Across the fleet, similar reports came in. Captain Susan Clark of the battleship Retribution sat in her command chair. She closed her eyes and saw flashes of ancient battles. Ships burning. Planets dying. The memories weren't hers, but they felt real. Captain. Her first officer looked concerned. Are you all right? Susan opened her eyes. I'm fine. Just tired. But she wasn't fine. The ship's computer seemed alive. It whispered tactics to her. It showed her weak points in enemy formations. It made her want to fight. In the Marine barracks, General Kevin Woods addressed his soldiers. These were Earth's best fighters. They had trained for planetary defense, not galactic war. Listen up, Kevin said. We're about to use weapons that nobody has touched in 10,000 years. These weapons change people. They make you feel powerful. They make you forget right and wrong. A young Marine raised his hand. Sir, how do we resist it? Kevin thought about the question. Remember why we're here. We're protectors, not conquerors. We fight to save lives, not to destroy them. The alien liaison ship arrived that afternoon. Counselor Thrix, a telepathic being from the Council, came aboard. Its blue skin shimmered as it met with the human command staff. I sense great conflict in your minds, Thrix said. Its voice was soft but clear. The weapons are awakening old instincts. Can you help us? Helen asked. Thrix touched its long fingers together. Your species has a unique trait. You can become the most violent creatures in the galaxy, but you can also choose not to. This choice is what makes you dangerous. Amy Davis interrupted. The weapons systems are fully online. We're ready for combat deployment. Thrix turned to her. Are you? Or are the weapons ready to use you? That night, Susan couldn't sleep. She walked through her ship, listening to its hum. In the weapon control room, she found a young officer staring at the singularity cannon controls. It's beautiful, isn't it? The officer said. The power to unmake reality itself. Susan felt the pull too. The desire to test the weapons, to see what they could do. Step away from the console, Lieutenant. The officer blinked, as if waking from a dream. Sorry, Captain. I just wanted to look. Susan understood. The weapons called to something deep inside humans, something primal and dangerous. In his quarters, John received a message from Earth. The World Council had voted. Humanity would help the galaxy, but with strict controls. Every weapon activation required multiple authorizations. Mental health checks would be constant. Any sign of corruption meant immediate recall. We walk a thin line, John told his senior staff. We must be strong enough to win, but wise enough to stop. The moment we enjoy the killing, we've lost ourselves. Helen nodded. I've set up meditation sessions, mental exercises to maintain clarity. We need to remember we're human, not machines of war. Outside, the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. Hundreds of warships, each one capable of terrible destruction. Inside them, humans struggled with their own nature. They had answered the galaxy's call. Now they had to prove they could handle the price of power. The scout ship Eagle dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Andromeda system. Commander Jake Foster checked his instruments twice. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Maria, are these readings correct? He asked his science officer. Lieutenant Maria Sanchez studied her console. Yes, sir. The entire outer planet is gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Like it never existed. Through the view screen, they saw empty space where a gas giant should have been. Jake felt his skin crawl. The Devourers had been here. Movement detected, the tactical officer announced. Something's coming out of the asteroid field. Jake watched as darkness moved between the stars. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't solid at all. It was like a living shadow that ate light itself. "The Devourer," Maria whispered. The shadow turned toward them. Jake felt a strange sensation, like something was pulling at his atoms. The ship's hull began to vibrate. "Shields up. Activate quantum disruptors," Jake ordered. The Eagle's experimental weapons powered up. These were smaller versions of the fleet's main guns. Blue energy crackled around the ship. The Devourer moved closer. Where it passed, asteroids disappeared. Not broken or exploded. They simply stopped being. "Fire," Jake commanded. Beams of twisted space shot from the Eagle. They hit the Devourer and something impossible happened. The shadow creature screamed, not with sound, but with reality itself. Space rippled around it. "It's working," Maria shouted. "The quantum field is disrupting its energy matrix." But the victory was short. More shadows appeared, dozens of them. They surrounded the Eagle like hungry wolves. "Sir, we're outnumbered," the tactical officer reported. His voice was steady, but his hand shook. Jake made a decision. "Activate the temporal displacement weapon." Maria turned to him. "Sir, that's never been tested. We don't know what it will do." "We're about to find out." The Eagle's most dangerous weapon charged. Time itself bent around the ship. Jake felt seconds stretch into hours. His crew moved in slow motion. Then everything snapped back. The weapon fired. A bubble of distorted time expanded from the Eagle. When it touched the Devourers, they froze. Not destroyed, but trapped between moments. "Jump to hyperspace. Now," Jake ordered. The Eagle fled as more Devourers arrived. Behind them, the time bubble collapsed. The trapped creatures broke free, angry and hungry. Back at Fleet Command, Jake stood before Admiral Parker and the senior staff. His report made them all uncomfortable. "The quantum disruptors work," Jake said, "but only on single targets. The temporal weapon is effective but unstable. We trapped 12 Devourers, but they broke free after we left." Helen Martinez studied the medical scans of Jake's crew. "The temporal weapon affected your biology. Your cells aged several months in seconds. Use it too often, and you'll die of old age." Amy Davis analyzed the combat data. The Devourers adapt quickly. The second group moved differently, like they learned from watching the first attack. "There's something else," Maria added. She displayed her analysis on the main screen. "The Devourers aren't natural. Someone made them. They're weapons, just like ours." John leaned forward. "Who would create such things?" "Unknown. But their energy signature matches technology from the Great War era. Someone used our own research to build these monsters." The implications hit everyone at once. The Devourers were connected to humanity's past, perhaps created by someone who feared human weapons, or worse, by humans themselves. "We need the full fleet," Jake said. "The Eagle barely survived. These things multiply. They learn, and they're heading toward inhabited systems." John nodded. "The fleet launches tomorrow. All ships, all weapons." He paused. "May God help us all." That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He remembered the sensation of the temporal weapon, the feeling of time breaking around him. He wondered if they were becoming the very monsters they fought. But he also knew they had no choice. The Devourers would consume everything if not stopped. Professor Alan Brooks stood in the ancient archive chamber deep beneath Earth's surface. The room hadn't been opened in 10,000 years. Dust floated in the beam of his flashlight. Behind him, armed guards waited nervously. "This is it," Alan said to his assistant. "The sealed records of the First Galactic War." He placed his hand on the DNA scanner. The massive vault door groaned open. Inside, thousands of data crystals lined the walls. Each one held secrets humanity had tried to forget. Ellen began with Crystal Alpha 1. The holographic projector flickered to life. Images filled the air. Human ships, alien worlds, and then the weapons. "My God," his assistant whispered. The recording showed humanity's peacekeeping force. They had been invited to join the Galactic Council as protectors. For 100 years, humans kept the peace. They stopped wars. They saved civilizations. Then something changed. The Vectar Empire attacked a peaceful system. Humans responded, but the Vectar used a new weapon. It killed an entire human colony. 20 million people died in seconds. "That's when we changed," Alan said, watching the recordings. "Look at what happened next." The human fleet unleashed their true power. Not just ships and guns, but weapons that broke the laws of physics. The Vectar Empire ceased to exist. Not conquered, erased. Every planet, every ship, every trace of their civilization vanished. Other species saw this and feared humanity. Some formed an alliance against Earth. They struck first, killing more human colonies. Humanity responded with increasing violence. The war spiraled out of control. Here, Alan pointed to a new recording. "This is where we created the Devourers." The recording showed a secret human laboratory. Scientists worked on a new weapon, living energy that could consume matter. It was meant to be the ultimate deterrent. But we lost control, Alan continued. The prototypes escaped. They began consuming everything. We couldn't stop them. The final recordings were the worst. Humanity's leadership made a decision. They would leave the galaxy, lock away their weapons, let the universe heal without them. That same day, Ambassador Karen White faced the Galactic Council again. She had questions this time. "You knew," she said to the Chancellor. "You knew about the Devourers. You knew we created them." The Chancellor's 4 eyes showed no emotion. "Yes. Then why call us back? Why trust us with weapons again?" Old Zektar floated forward. "Because we were wrong about your species. We thought you were naturally violent. But these records show the truth. You became violent to protect others. You went too far, yes, but you also chose to stop." Another council member spoke. "We pushed you to darkness. Our fear created your anger. When you destroyed the Vectar, it was because they murdered your innocent people." Karen felt anger rise. "So you're saying it was your fault?" "No," the Chancellor said. "But we share the blame. We turned protectors into destroyers. Now we need protectors again." Back on Earth, Alan continued his research. He found personal logs from human commanders. They showed the internal struggle, the desire for revenge, the guilt over their actions, the decision to exile themselves. One recording stood out. Admiral Chen, the last Supreme Commander, spoke directly to the camera. "We became what we fought against. We let anger guide us. We forgot mercy. But humans can learn. We can change. Maybe someday we'll be worthy of trust again." Alan shared his findings with Admiral Parker. The fleet was almost ready to launch. "So we created our own enemy," John said quietly. "Yes, but we also chose to stop. We chose exile over genocide." Alan handed him a datapad. "Here's information on Devourer weaknesses. Our ancestors found ways to contain them before they escaped." John studied the data. "Can we win without becoming monsters again?" Alan met his eyes. "That's the real test, isn't it? Not whether we can win, but whether we should." The truth was out. Humanity's darkest secret revealed. They had created the very threat now destroying the galaxy. The question remained, could they fix their mistake without repeating their past? The combined fleet gathered at the galactic core. 800 human ships and 2,000 alien vessels formed the largest military force ever assembled. In the center of the galaxy, a massive shadow pulsed with dark energy, the Devourer Queen. Admiral John Parker stood on the bridge of the Retribution. Around him, officers from 20 different species worked together. The sight gave him hope. "All ships report ready," Captain Susan Clark announced. The aggression she had felt earlier was under control. Daily meditation helped. So did working alongside aliens who trusted them. Engineer Amy Davis looked up from her station. "Admiral, I've modified the singularity cannons. Instead of destroying, they'll create a dimensional rift. We can trap the Queen in another reality." "Will it hold?" John asked. "If we channel enough power, yes. But we need to get close. Very close." On the planet below the Queen, ground forces prepared for battle. Private Luke Harrison checked his quantum rifle. Around him, human Marines stood beside alien warriors. They had trained together for weeks. Trust had grown between them. "Remember," General Kevin Woods addressed the troops, "we plant the quantum bombs at these 5 points. This will weaken the Queen's connection to our dimension." Luke looked at his squad. 2 humans, 3 Vorthans, and a Zelki warrior. Different species united by purpose. The battle began at dawn. The Devourer Queen sensed the threat. Thousands of smaller Devourers poured from her shadow body. They attacked the fleet like angry hornets. "All ships, engage," John ordered. Space lit up with quantum fire. Human weapons twisted reality. Alien energy beams burned bright. Devourers died by the hundreds, but more kept coming. On the surface, Luke's squad fought through waves of energy creatures. The Devourers here were different. Smaller, faster. They seemed almost solid. "Plant the charges," Kevin ordered over the radio. Luke ran toward the first target point. A Devourer blocked his path. Before he could fire, his Vorthan squadmate pushed him aside and took the hit. The alien dissolved into atoms. "Go," the Zelki warrior shouted. "We cover you." Luke planted the bomb and moved to the next point. All around, similar scenes played out. Different species sacrificing for each other. The old fears and hatreds forgotten in the face of extinction. In space, the battle rage. The Retribution pushed forward, its massive hull taking hit after hit. Susan guided the ship with skill born from the vessel's memories, but controlled by her human compassion. "Singularity cannon charge," Amy reported. "We need to be within 1,000 kilometers. All ships, clear a path," John commanded. The fleet responded. Alien vessels formed a spearhead, their shields overlapping. Human ships provided covering fire. Together, they punched through the Devourer swarms. The Queen sensed the danger. She focused her attention on the Retribution. Dark energy slammed into the ship. Systems failed. Crew members screamed. "Hull breach on Deck 7. Someone shouted. "Keep going," John ordered. "We're almost there." On the ground, Luke reached the final bomb site. His squad was gone, dead or scattered. He was alone. A massive Devourer rose before him. This one was different. It had form. It had eyes. It looked almost human. Luke understood. This was one of the original prototypes, one of humanity's failures. "I'm sorry," Luke said, and detonated his quantum rifle at point-blank range. The explosion triggered all 5 bombs. The planet's surface cracked. Energy pillars shot into space, striking the Queen. She writhed in pain, her connection to this dimension weakening. "Now," John shouted. The Retribution's singularity cannon fired. Space itself tore open. A rift appeared, pulling with infinite force. The Queen struggled but couldn't resist. She was drawn into the void between dimensions. The smaller Devourers, cut off from their Queen, dissolved into nothingness. The battle was over. In the aftermath, ships from all species worked together to rescue survivors. The fear of humanity had been replaced by respect. They had shown they could be trusted with power. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so full. Representatives from 900 species gathered to witness history. At the center stood President Carol Morgan of Earth, the first human leader to address the galaxy in 10,000 years. Carol looked out at the alien faces. Some still showed fear. Others showed respect. Most showed hope. 10,000 years ago, humanity left the galactic community, Carol began. We left because we lost control. We became the monsters we fought against. We created weapons that should never have existed. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we also chose to stop. We chose isolation over domination. Today, we choose differently. The Council Chancellor stepped forward. The Galactic Council offers humanity full membership. More than that, we offer you leadership of our combined defense forces. Will you accept? Carol smiled. We accept membership, but we decline leadership over others. Instead, we propose something new. The hall buzzed with whispers. This was unexpected. We propose the Galactic Guard, Carol continued. A force where all species serve as equals, where power is shared, not concentrated, where weapons are controlled by many, not few. Admiral John Parker stood beside her. Our weapons will be placed under joint control. No single species, including humans, can use them alone. Multiple confirmations required. Shared responsibility. The Chancellor's four eyes widened. You would limit your own power. Power corrupts, John said. We learned this the hard way. Shared power protects everyone, including us from ourselves. Captain Derek Miller, who had first answered the Council's call, now commanded the new Galactic Defense Fleet. He stood before a crew of mixed species. Humans worked beside Vorthans. Zelki navigated alongside Terrans. Our mission is protection, not conquest, Derek addressed his crew. We are guardians of peace. When conflict comes, we respond with measured force. When the threat ends, we stand down. In the research labs, Amy Davis worked with alien scientists. Together, they studied the captured devourer specimens. The creatures were contained in temporal fields, frozen between moments. We're learning to reverse their creation, Amy explained to a visiting council member. One day, we might restore what they consumed. Bring back the lost worlds. Dr. Helen Martinez established the Joint Psychological Institute. Here, crews from all species learn to resist the corruption of power. Meditation techniques, ethical training, constant monitoring for signs of aggression. The weapons still whisper, Helen told her mixed species team. But together, we're stronger than the whispers. Different perspectives keep us balanced. On Earth, monuments rose to commemorate the fallen. Not just humans, but all species who died in the battle. Luke Harrison's name appeared beside his Vorthan squadmate. Unity in sacrifice. Unity in memory. Ambassador Karen White signed the final treaty. The document established new laws for weapons development. Reality-altering technology required approval from at least 50 species. No single race could create doomsday weapons again. We've learned from our mistakes, Karen said at the signing ceremony. This treaty ensures no species faces the temptation we faced alone. The old human fleet was reorganized. Some ships joined the Galactic Guard. Others were converted to exploration vessels. The most dangerous weapons were kept as deterrents, but under the strictest controls. Young officers like Danny Cruz trained the next generation. They taught not just tactics but ethics. Not just power but responsibility. Remember, Danny told his cadets, strength isn't in the weapons we carry. It's in knowing when not to use them. A year later, Carol addressed Earth. Humanity had rejoined the galaxy, but as partners, not conquerors. We are no longer silent, she said, but we speak with wisdom earned through pain. We wield power, but with humility learned through failure. We protect, but with compassion born from understanding. In deep space, the Galactic Guard patrolled. Human ships flew beside alien vessels. Former enemies now stood as brothers. The galaxy was safer, not because one species dominated, but because all species united. The dangerous humans had returned, but they had returned as guardians, not gods. Their greatest victory was not in the weapons they used, but in the wisdom to share their burden. The silence was broken. A new era had begun.